Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us is an absolute monster from the folks over at Kershaw. I had two choices. I could have gotten the regular size or the XL. This is the Strata. I went with the XL because I always do. And even though I had read the specs, I underestimated the size of this monster. This is a big knife. From tip to tail, it is 12 inches long. I mean, this is, if you like the Cold Steel Voyagers, but wish that there was a lighter, slightly thinner handle version of a knife like that, Kershaw has absolutely stepped into the abyss and brought us this. And I am blown away, honestly, with this knife end to end. They're only about $77. They're not very expensive. It is D2, running on bearings. It is G10 and a steel frame lock. It does have these interesting sort of faux copper accents, which they seem to be doing on a lot of their knives. The G10 on this thing is milled out in a way to give it both interest and grip. It is very comfortable. I'm not, you can hold it down here, or you can hold it up here. Down here it's a little thin, but if you were going to swing this thing, that is a great place to hang on. The D2 blade is gorgeous. It's got this beautiful flat, lovely swedge. It's almost it's a clip point, almost Bowie at this end up here. It is a beautiful, long, just gorgeous, long, flat, and then this nice belly at the tip. And the grind is very good. For the amount of money they're asking for this thing. Now, it is a thin piece of D2, but what that means is that it is very sharp. Has a very nice edge on it. This logo here is their in-house design logo, which means no one else was involved in that. Now, you may notice there's a little smudge right here. Because of the length of the lock bar and how thin this thing is, I think the blade is contacting, right here. Right there, excuse me. So when it's closed, it's not an issue, but when you deploy it, it's actually touching, I think, right there a little bit. Is it perfect? No. Is it an inexpensive pocket monster? Yes. As I said, it is 12 inches overall. The blade itself is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 inches of cutting on 5.5 inches of D2. The grip area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just, well, it's basically 5.5 inches of grip. You can almost two-hand it. It's very light for its size. It really is. This thing, if you have big enough pockets, this thing actually carries very well. It has a very nice pocket clip. I really am enjoying having this thing in the house. It is fun to carry and fun to use. Let's do some size comparisons. What do I have that's big? Well, let's start with something everybody knows. This, of course, is the PM2, which is almost the same size as the Strata here, closed. I mean, opened, it's just no competition. Here's a really big knife, and I used this on the table recently, so it's still out here. This is the Hogue X5. This is a 4-inch blade. I mean, come on. It's just dwarfed by the Strata. It's not often that when a knife company says XL, they're very serious about it. I don't know what inspired Kershaw to do this, but I am really happy that they did, because it's just silly, awesome goodness. And the best part, by far, let's do something small. Here it is against the Spyderco Shaman, which is not small, but is absolutely small by comparison. And finally, the Para 3 lightweight, which can just about sit on the blade. I mean, come on, this is no joke. If you got to have big pockets, but if you do, this is a super fun carry. And that's what I'm getting at. The best part of this thing is that despite its absurd size, and it is absurd in the best way possible, it's a great cutter. I have used this thing on boxes and packing tape. I've used it on packing straps. I cut some paracord with it just as a test. I have not taken it outside and beat on it yet, but I will. I'm curious how well it holds up. but we haven't gotten there yet. But because of the high, the very, very almost high flat grind, you got a little flat right here, man, and the thin stock, this thing is an absolute cutter. Now you can hold it this way. You don't get a lot more control because the blade is so long. It is phenomenal in hand like this. You can just go through material like it's not even there. It's just well done. And my experience with Kershaw's D2 has been very good. I have the NORAD and I have something else. I can't remember off the top of my head. And both of them are, so far, are sort of pace setting for D2. I have a lot of D2 knives and I've had a just stack of D2 knives. So I have a fair amount of comparison to make. Kershaw's D2 holds up exceptionally well. The closed profile in this, I mentioned big pockets. I mean, it's no joke, right? We are at what? 6.5 inches closed. So for the ladies out there watching, and according to my analytics, that almost never happens. I wish it would. Or guys that are smaller with smaller pockets, that's not going to work. But you could throw this in a backpack or a to-go, or a go bag, and have yourself a mini machete all the time. I love big knives. I use the word absurd and people get mad. Please understand, I'm not coming down on them. But they are verging on ridiculous because, it's a pocket knife. The pocket clip says so. But man, you got to have the right pockets and certainly the right attitude to carry this. You pop this thing open in the lunchroom at work and people are going to have thoughts for sure. If somebody was to ask me, should they get one of these? I would actually suggest that they get the regular size Strata, which is a 4.5 inch blade. It's not small by any stretch of the imagination. I'm actually going to get one because at this price, I'd like to have them both. But for a regular user, I think the standard size, the regular size, would probably be a better suggestion. But I do have some friends that love monsters, and I have recommended this already. At the price point, 77, something like that, 70 or 80 bucks, for what you get when the box comes. And by the way, I don't have it handy, but it is the biggest Kershaw box I've ever gotten. Except for, no, it is in fact the biggest Kershaw box I've ever gotten. What you get for your money here is just awesome. Silly and awesome all at the same time. I mentioned that it has reasonably thin blade stock, and I'm not against that. If you're trying to make a slicer, starting with thin blade stock is not a terrible choice. Yeah, so we're, 3.28 millimeters, right, which is reasonably thin. The handle itself is only 11 millimeters, which is under a 1/2 inch, right? It actually has a really nice closed profile. I mean, for a knife this size, we're at, what, an inch and a little over 1.5 inches at its widest point. Because of the shape of this thing and the nicely, it's got jimping on the flipper tab here, and look how small that flipper tab is. On a knife this size, a little tiny tab that just works every single time. I don't know if you can shake it out. Let's try. Oh yeah, you can. The detent is not super powerful, but on the other hand, the amount of weight behind this blade means that the detent may be great. It's just the blade outweighs it, right? So you can snap it open that way if that's your kind of jam. Because it is a steel frame lock, you don't have to worry about it wearing away. It does lock up really tight. There's no blade rock, no wiggle, no nothing, which I don't expect that stuff from Kershaw, but when they do something sort of radical like this, you never do know. The construction is super easy. It's got really nice, so this sort of copper, faux copper inlay. It has copper colored barrel spacers and just 2 of them. Very simple, very elegant design. I like it, and I want the other one, which I'll have to make that happen. Let's go ahead and weigh it out. "12-inch knife, 5.8 ounces. My Hogue is the same weight. These weigh the same. My Benchmade Presidio here is 5 ounces, and it is, you know, I mean, just much, much smaller. So they've done a really good job at keeping the weight down. And I got to tell you, it does not feel flimsy. You get a little movement when you squeeze, because there's no liner on the G10 side. You get a little movement on the G10, but not much. Now, would I take this thing out and baton it through a tree? No. I mean, I would if I had to, and I believe that the blade would certainly go through. I don't know how well the knife would hold up. I think this is more a piece just because they could, and I think that is awesome. Again, if you're looking into one of these, I actually sort of recommend the smaller version for every sort of daily carry. But if you are looking for a large beast of a knife for not too much money from a well-known company that has done a great job, the Strata XL is the way to go. And we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this monster or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. We'll see you next time.